There is a quiet truth most people never learn. A truth that hides beneath every story of greatness. It is this: the most consistent men and women in the world are not moved by motivation. They don't wait for a spark. They don't bargain with themselves when the morning is heavy and the world is cold. They don't speak of inspiration or moods or perfect timing. They simply rise and do what must be done. While others wait to feel ready, they are already in motion. While some scroll through motivational clips searching for a temporary flame, these individuals have already taken action long before the feeling ever arrives. Their strength is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is steady, ancient, unshakable. It is something older than excitement, deeper than desire, and stronger than emotion. Before we begin, breathe with me. And if you walk this path too, the path of self-mastery, of quiet discipline, of the warrior spirit, subscribe to the Zen Warrior. Now, let us return to the core of the message. There was once a time in Japan when this mysterious ability to act without waiting for the mind to cooperate had a name. During the elegant, refined Heian period, while poets wrote of beauty and monks copied sacred sutras by candlelight, there existed a concept whispered about in the courts and trained into the bones of warriors. Yamato Damashii, the Japanese spirit. The inner flame that persists even when the mind begs to stop. The soul that moves the body forward when every excuse tries to pull it back. It forged warriors not because it taught them how to fight, but because it taught them how to endure. Centuries later, this idea would be twisted and misused by governments for political purpose, but its original meaning had nothing to do with conquest, nothing to do with empire. At its heart, Yamato Damashii was about one thing: duty over sentiment, duty over mood, duty over the fleeting whispers of the mind. And to understand why this ancient principle can change your life today, you must hear the story of a young man who knew more than most, but acted less than all. In the 10th century, in the gentle quiet of the Heian courts, lived a young noble named Renjiro. At only 23, he had consumed enough knowledge to shame men twice his age. His family prized education, so the greatest works of China, Korea, and Japan were placed at his feet. Poetry, philosophy, Buddhist koans, Confucian ethics, military strategy. He devoured everything. While other youths wasted their evenings on ceremony and flirtation, Renjiro studied until the moon blurred into morning. And yet, he was utterly powerless in the one thing that mattered. Every night, Renjiro promised himself that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow he would finally begin training. Tomorrow he would take the first step toward becoming the warrior he claimed he wanted to be. He pictured himself gripping a blade until his palms blistered. He imagined the sweat, the ache, the discipline. But when morning came, he always found a reason, no, an excuse, to delay. A new text would catch his eye. A scroll he hadn't memorized. A commentary he hadn't fully understood. How can I train, he told himself, if I don't perfectly grasp the theory? And so he would sit down again, opening another book, creating another reason to remain unchanged. Renjiro accumulated knowledge, but he lost time, and time, unlike knowledge, does not return. People began to notice. Whispered jokes spread through the estate. Renjiro the scholar, they mocked. The warrior of ink and paper. Some said he could defeat an army with explanations but not with action. His reputation became a shadow that followed him everywhere. Brilliant, but useless. One evening his father summoned him. A strict man hardened by years of advising military lords, he studied his son with a mixture of pride and disappointment. And then he delivered the sentence that pierced deeper than any sword could. "You have the mind of a general," his father said quietly, "and the heart of a child. Knowledge without action is a body without breath. You live as if you have forever, Renjiro, but you are only pretending to be alive." Renjiro barely slept that night. Shame tore through him. He felt like a fraud wearing the mask of a man. When dawn finally arrived, he did something he had never done before. He left his home without a book in his hand. He walked into the forest. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know what he was seeking. Maybe clarity, maybe courage, maybe just the feeling of doing something instead of thinking about everything. The deeper he walked, the more the world changed. The air grew colder, the trees grew older, until suddenly he heard a sound, steady, rhythmic, sharp, wood striking wood, metal slicing air, the heartbeat of training. He followed the sound into a clearing, and there, beneath the pale morning light, stood a man. Grey hair tied back, scars lining his arms like faded battle maps. He held a wooden sword and moved with a precision that seemed carved from years of repetition. The same cut, the same stance, over and over, thousands of times, his breath calm, his mind silent, his presence immovable. Renjiro watched, unable to look away. This was discipline. This was mastery. Not the fire of inspiration, but the weight of constancy. When the man finally paused, Renjiro bowed deeply. "Master," he said, not knowing if the man deserved the title, only knowing he felt like a master. "Teach me." The man glanced at him once, unimpressed. "No." Renjiro's heart sank, but he tried again. "Please, I've studied the texts, I know the strategies, I understand the principles, I just need guidance." The man turned, his eyes cold and clear. "You know strategies? Then use them. I am not here to save boys from their own excuses." Renjiro felt something twist inside him. Embarrassment, frustration, desperation. "I need to change," he said. "I can't keep living like this." The man paused. His expression did not soften, but something changed. "You will give up," he said simply. "I won't. Everyone gives up." "I won't," Renjiro repeated, though even he wasn't sure he believed it. Silence settled between them. Finally, the man exhaled through his nose. "If you mean what you say, be here tomorrow, before sunrise. If you come, I will consider teaching you. If you do not return." Renjiro nodded, gratitude swelling inside him, but the man cut him off. "Your promises," he said, "mean nothing." Renjiro went home, and for the first time in his life, he did not read. He simply waited for dawn, and dawn changed everything. When the sky was still black and the world was still sleeping, Renjiro arrived in the clearing, trembling with cold and fear. When the old master finally appeared, he looked at the young noble with something between suspicion and curiosity. "You came," he said, emotionless. "I said I would." "Words," the master replied. "Today we see if there is anything in you besides words." This was the day Renjiro would learn the first truth of Yamato Damashii, the truth that would demolish everything he believed about motivation, discipline, identity, and action. And the first lesson was pain. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the Zen Warrior. Be calm, be strong, be present. The morning air bit into Renjiro's skin, as if trying to push him back home. The earth beneath his feet was still wet with night dew, and every breath left a faint cloud in front of him. The old master stepped into the clearing without a greeting, without warmth, and without ceremony. He walked past Renjiro as if he were made of air, as if showing up meant nothing at all. "Stand," the master said. Renjiro straightened. "Lower your stance." He obeyed. "Lower." Renjiro went lower, lower. His legs trembled. The master examined him once, then shook his head. "You have read too much and moved too little. Your stance has the strength of boiled rice." He tapped his foot against Renjiro's ankle, pushing it outward. Again. Renjiro adjusted. The master adjusted him again, and again, and again, each correction sharper than the last. Finally, the master took a long, quiet breath. "Hold." Renjiro nodded. "No," the master said. "Do not speak, just hold." Seconds passed, then minutes. The burn began like a whisper, a soft ache in the thighs, but soon it spread, crawling up his hips, tightening around his stomach, dripping into his lower back. The pain became an animal, biting deeper with every moment. Renjiro clenched his fists to stop himself from collapsing. Sweat, cold as river water, slid down his temples. "Good," the master said, though his voice carried no praise. "Now the lesson begins." Renjiro's breath hitched. This is the lesson?" "No," the master replied. "This is the introduction to the lesson." Renjiro's legs shook violently. His lungs begged for rest. His mind screamed to stand up, to ease the pressure, to move, anything to escape the pain burning him alive. And then the master struck. A wooden cane snapped across Renjiro's back. Not hard enough to injure, but sharp enough to cut through his thoughts like a blade. Renjiro gasped. "Why?" The master's voice cut like winter steel. "Your body wants to rise, your mind wants to escape, but neither is your commander." He stepped closer. "Tell me, young noble, who is in charge, your pain or you?" Renjiro clenched his teeth. I'm in charge." Another strike. "You don't speak with your mouth," the master growled. "You speak with your endurance." Renjiro felt humiliation burn hotter than the pain. Tears gathered in the corners of his eyes, not from the beating, but from the truth he could no longer hide. He had never truly pushed himself before. Not once, not to this point, not beyond his comfort. His hard work, his studies, his routines, they were all done in safety, in warmth, in the comfort of sitting. He knew words, but not discipline. He knew ideals, but not pain. He knew theories, but not himself. The master loomed behind him, silent for a long time. Renjiro's legs buckled. He caught himself just before collapsing. "Why do you tremble?" the master asked. "Because it hurts." "And why does that matter?" Renjiro didn't know what to say. The pain seemed like everything. The world had shrunk into the burning in his thighs and the screaming in his spine. The master exhaled, disappointed. "Pain matters only to children." The words landed heavier than the strikes. "Stand," the master ordered, as if the pain belongs to someone else. Renjiro forced himself deeper into the stance. His legs shook uncontrollably, but he held. Minutes passed like hours. When the master finally spoke, his tone softened by the smallest fraction, the weight of an eyelash. "Now," he said, "you may rise." Renjiro collapsed backward, falling into the dirt. He stared up at the sky, gasping, trembling, feeling both destroyed and alive. The master did not help him up. "Do you understand why this was the first lesson?" the old man asked. Renjiro wiped his face with the back of his sleeve. "Because discipline requires pain?" The master slowly shook his head. "No." Renjiro frowned weakly. "Then why?" The master crouched beside him, his voice lowering into something ancient, something almost tender but still edged in iron. "Because your entire life," he said, "you have waited for motivation. You have waited to feel ready. You have waited for desire, clarity, inspiration, energy. And because of that, you have never done anything real." Renjiro swallowed hard. "You live," the master continued, "like a man controlled by his emotions. You start only when excited. You quit when it hurts. You read to feel productive. You dream to feel strong. You plan to feel prepared." He leaned forward. "But feeling is the enemy. Duty is the ally." Renjiro tried to speak, but emotion caught in his throat. The master pointed to the stance Renjiro had held. "That pain you felt, that shaking, that desire to escape, that is the real battlefield, not the sword, not the opponent, not the world." He tapped Renjiro's forehead lightly. "It is here." He tapped Renjiro's chest. "And here." Renjiro stared at him, the meaning sinking in with the weight of a falling mountain. "Every warrior," the master said, "every craftsman, every poet, every man who accomplishes anything, they all carry the same burden. They wake up and do the work regardless of how they feel. And that Renjiro is Yamato Damashii." A long silence hung between them. "Then how do I learn it?" Renjiro whispered. The master stood, lifting his wooden sword. "Not by reading, not by dreaming, not by wishing." He turned, pointing toward the deeper forest. "You learn it," he said, "by letting your actions carve away the parts of you that are weak." Renjiro pushed himself up to his knees, breath still trembling. "And what do we do now?" The master glanced back, the faintest hint of challenge in his eyes. "Now," he said, "we begin again." And so Renjiro did, his legs burning, his back aching. Renjiro trained with the old master every morning before sunrise. What began as a single stance, held until his legs trembled, soon grew into hours of unbroken discipline. The master never encouraged him, never praised him, never offered softness or comfort. Instead, he offered structure, a ritual, a rhythm, a path. And the moment Renjiro stepped into that path, something in him began to change. His excuses, once loud and convincing, became faint murmurs in the background. His mind, once chaotic and overfilled with theories, fell silent in the presence of sweat and repetition. His desire to understand everything before starting, a desire that had stolen years of his life, dissolved in the fire of physical effort. The forest became his temple, the dirt beneath his feet became scripture, the burning in his legs and shoulders became his true teacher. Weeks passed, then months. And in that time, Renjiro learned a truth that every student of discipline eventually discovers. The body transforms long before the mind does. Each morning, Renjiro arrived earlier than the last. He began to anticipate the difficulty instead of fear it. The ache became familiar. The routine became grounding. The discipline became a kind of quiet companionship. For the first time in his life, Renjiro did not wake up wondering what version of himself he would be that day. There was no negotiation, no debate, no question of mood. He did the work because it was time to work, that was all. One cold morning, months into their training, the master handed Renjiro a wooden sword. Renjiro held it awkwardly at first. It felt heavier than he expected, heavier not in weight but in meaning. "Your training changes today," the master said. Renjiro bowed. "You will strike the tree." Renjiro nodded. "How many times, master?" The old man shrugged with indifference. "Until you understand." Renjiro looked to the thick cedar standing before him. Its bark was rough, its trunk wide, its presence unmoved by time. He lifted the sword and struck. Once, twice, 10 times, 50 times. The sound echoed through the forest in steady rhythms. Crack, crack, crack. His arms burned, his wrists shook. His shoulders begged for rest, but he kept going. When he reached his 100th strike, sweat soaked through his training clothes. His breath came heavy and uneven, but the tree, hard, ancient, unbothered, showed no sign of change. Renjiro stopped, panting. "Master, it's pointless. The tree isn't affected." The master stared at him in long silence. Then he spoke a sentence Renjiro would remember for the rest of his life. "You are not striking to cut the tree," he said. "You are striking to cut the man you used to be." Renjiro froze. The master continued, "The repetition is not for the world, it is for your spirit, your weakness, your hesitation, your old identity. Those are what you are splitting with every strike." Renjiro tightened his grip on the sword. "Continue," the master said, and so he did. 1,000 strikes, 10,000, more. Days turned into weeks. His hands blistered, split, bled, and healed stronger each time. His arms shook, but his resolve did not, and slowly, without noticing, Renjiro changed. His back straightened, his breathing deepened, his movements sharpened, his thoughts grew calm, steady, grounded. The master watched it all with the stillness of a stone statue. Then, one dawn, he spoke the truth Renjiro had earned through sweat and silence. "You have begun to understand, Yamato Damashii." Renjiro bowed deeply. "What is it truly, master? I want to know fully." The master shook his head. "Knowledge without action enslaved you once. I will not let it do so again." Renjiro straightened, listening. "The Japanese spirit," the master said slowly, "is not motivation. It is not excitement. It is not fire. It is the quiet, immovable force that guides a man to do what must be done, even when his heart resists." He placed a hand on Renjiro's shoulder. A rare gesture, a rare moment. "It is the ability to act without permission from your emotions." Renjiro swallowed. "It is duty," the master said. "Your purpose, your chosen road, the thing you do every single day, not because it feels good, but because it is who you are." Silence fell over the clearing. Renjiro felt something shift inside him, something deep, something permanent. "Master," he said softly, "what is next in my training?" The master gave a faint smile, the first Renjiro had ever seen. "Next," he repeated, "next you stop being a student." Renjiro blinked. "What? You came to me weak, lost, ruled by your moods, but now you rise before the sun. You greet pain like a familiar companion. You act without waiting to feel ready. You do the work because it is your duty." He stepped back, looking Renjiro in the eye. "You are no longer a child of motivation," the master said. "You are a man of discipline." Emotion surged in Renjiro's chest. "But master, I still have much to—" "Yes," the old man interrupted, "and you will learn it, but not under me." Renjiro felt a sting of sadness. "Why, have I disappointed you?" "On the contrary," the master replied. "You have honored this place with your sweat, but Yamato Damashii cannot live only here in this forest. A warrior's spirit blossoms only when carried back into the world." Renjiro looked down, uncertain. "What if I fail?" The master's voice cut through the morning fog. "You will fail," he said, "many times, but discipline means you continue anyway." Renjiro lifted his head. The master turned away, walking back toward the deeper forest. "Remember this, Renjiro, motivation is a guest. It appears and disappears at will. But duty is a home. You return to it every day. He paused, looking over his shoulder one last time. And that, he said, is the spirit you were born to carry. Renjiro bowed deeply, forehead touching the cold earth. When he rose, the master was gone, but Renjiro did not feel alone. He felt ready. He returned home with a different posture, a different step, a different presence. Everyone saw it immediately. The boy who once lived in books now carried himself like a man carved from consistency. He still read, he still studied, but now his actions matched his knowledge, his words matched his effort, his dreams aligned with his discipline. He no longer chased motivation, he no longer waited for inspiration. He no longer relied on mood, he relied on duty. And in doing so, he finally became everything he once only imagined. This is the ancient secret of Yamato Damashii, the secret of the Japanese spirit, the secret to unshakable discipline. Do not trust your feelings, do not negotiate with your mind. Do what must be done, because it must be done, and let your actions forge the man you were meant to be. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the Zen Warrior. Be calm, be strong, be present,